The Philadelphia Eagles arrived at the first day of Phase Three OTAs with the same green turf as always at the Jefferson Health Training Complex, with the same helmets gleaming in the same light, with the same athletes walking through the same gate. But any reporter present at that session knows that something was different. There were empty spots where certain presences had always been. There was a new offensive coordinator calling plays into a headset that has not yet earned anyone's trust. And there were 8 open questions hanging over every practice rep, every route run, every decision Jalen Hurts made without a real defender in front of him. 8 questions. 8 unresolved situations that could determine whether this team wins the Super Bowl or goes home before January. Some you already know. One you will hear last, because it is the one that weighs most heavily on everything the Eagles will do over the next 60 days. If you are a true Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because this is the complete map of what the Eagles need to resolve before Week 1. The turf at the Jefferson Health Training Complex looked the same. The helmets gleamed the same green. But the first snap of Phase 3 OTAs carried a weight that no practice rep should have to bear. Familiar faces missing from familiar spots. New coaches calling new plays into headsets that have not earned anyone's trust yet. And a franchise that entered the offseason as defending champions, now trying to answer the questions that no team can avoid when the salary cap begins to collect its bill from success. That franchise is the Philadelphia Eagles. The 8th question is the softest on the list, but it should not be dismissed. Saquon Barkley showed up to OTAs focused and ready to work. On a roster full of question marks, that matters more than it sounds. With A.J. Brown's future still unresolved and a completely new offensive system being installed by Sean Mannion, the running game becomes the stabilizer that holds the offense together, while the new relationships between Hurts and the receivers are still being built. But underneath all of that optimism sits a question that needs to be answered across the season. What is Barkley's workload ceiling on an offense that may need to compensate for Brown's departure with significantly more rushing volume? Overworking the best running back in the world to cover holes at other positions is exactly the kind of mistake that destroys seasons for teams that were supposed to be favorites. The 7th question is the safety position, which multiple analysts have already flagged as a genuine structural vulnerability on this roster. Marcus Epps as the likely starter alongside Andrew Mukuba is a combination that could work. But working and being reliable across 17 weeks against the best offenses in the NFL are completely different things. The football analysis piece published this week was precise on this point. A strong pass rush can mask some coverage issues at safety, but masking and solving are entirely different animals. Think of it like renovating the kitchen while the foundation needs repair. The cracks do not disappear just because you put a new countertop over them. The 6th question comes with concrete numbers that define the context of everything the Eagles will do through the end of July. The franchise holds the 23rd overall pick in the draft, plus projected compensatory selections. That draft capital is the organization's primary tool for answering the questions the free agent market has not yet solved. Phase 3. OTAs continue through early June before a break ahead of training camp in July. That means approximately 2 months of evaluation remain before real decisions lock in permanently. 2 months to answer 8 questions. The time exists. The margin for error does not. The 5th question is about the man holding the offensive coordinator headset. Sean Mannion was hired in January to replace Kevin Patullo, and what most Eagles fans have not fully processed yet is the real scope of the risk in that decision. Mannion is one of the least experienced play callers in the league right now. He was an active NFL quarterback as recently as 2023 and has no prior experience as an offensive coordinator at any level. That inexperience amplifies every other question on this roster in a way that Philadelphia fans need to understand before making any season predictions. Jalen Hurts is already facing public questions about his performance. Those questions become exponentially harder to answer when the system surrounding the quarterback is something that nobody in the league has yet tested under the real pressure of a regular season. The 4th question goes beyond the Eagles and points to a pattern that is becoming the new math of NFL contention. This is not just a Philadelphia story. It is the new equation for any franchise that builds a championship-caliber roster. The better your team, the more expensive your problems become. Philadelphia assembled a high-level roster and the salary cap charged them exactly for it. Every star contract limits the flexibility to address weaknesses. Once you see that pattern, you see it everywhere across the league. And the Eagles are the clearest current example of a franchise where the distance between Super Bowl favorite and eliminated before the playoffs lives inside a handful of unresolved decisions. The third question has one statistic that every Eagles fan who assumes this roster is already set needs to commit to memory. With Lane Johnson on the field, 110 wins, 57 losses, and 1 tie. Without Lane Johnson, 18 wins and 27 losses. Those are 2 completely different franchises sharing the same logo. Johnson confirmed he is returning for his 14th season in 2026, under contract through 2027. But at 36 years old, durability is never a guarantee for a veteran offensive tackle. Protecting Jalen Hurts behind that offensive line across a full 17-game season could define whether the favorite stays the favorite all the way through January. The second question is about dead money, and it is the one that most fans do not understand deeply enough to evaluate the real impact it has on Philadelphia's roster-building capacity. The $43.5 million dead cap, hit dropping to $16.4 million in June, is not just a financial footnote. It is a countdown clock that restructures the entire roster-building strategy. Every day A.J. Brown remains on the roster before that date costs the Eagles flexibility they may need at safety, along the offensive line, and at positions nobody is publicly discussing yet. The front office built a contender. The salary cap built a timer. Those 2 forces collide in weeks, not months. And the first question, the one that weighs most heavily on every practice rep at the Jefferson Health Training Complex this week, is the A.J. Brown cloud. Brown was not at OTAs. That absence screams louder than any press conference could. The trade rumors have not just lingered throughout this offseason, they have calcified into something the organization can no longer ignore. Right now, moving the star receiver carries a dead cap impact of $43.5 million. In June, that number drops to $16.4 million, a far more manageable level. The entire football world is watching a calendar, not a depth chart. Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley stayed laser-focused on the practice field while their teammates' future hung over every root tree like fog. When OTAs close in June, the mandatory minicamp follows, and the summer silence arrives before training camp in July. The Eagles will enter August with some of these questions answered and others still open. The team that takes the field in Week 1 could look radically different from the one running routes at the Jefferson Health Training Complex this week. Philadelphia enters 2026 as a contender with the roster construction of a team still figuring itself out. Knowing which version shows up in September is worth more than any betting line. Which of these 8 questions concerns you most as an Eagles fan heading into Week 1? The A.J. Brown cloud? Mannion's inexperience as a play caller? The catastrophic record without Lane Johnson? Or is there one the list did not even mention that you believe will define the season? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later with the latest Eagles news.